In a dramatic twist that sent shockwaves around the globe, Vladimir Putin hinted he might call for a sudden break in the fighting in Ukraine, but only if strict, hotly debated terms are met. At the same time, Donald Trump is busy crafting a peace deal of his own, moving his pieces like a careful chess master. The world now watches with bated breath. Could this change of heart rewrite the rules of the game? Deep within the Kremlin's halls, whispers claim that Russia may pause its attacks for a while, yet only if a clear set of rules is put in place. Sources close to the talks say this would mean drawing up a solid plan for lasting peace and picking a select group of nations to join a future peacekeeping force. However, this very demand has set off alarms in Ukraine and among its Western friends. Will this deal tip the scale in Moscow's favor? Behind closed doors, Trump's team had been quietly exploring ways to ease the economic pressures on Russia, even eyeing the idea of lifting the cap on its oil sales, a move that left many European partners uneasy. Then, on Friday, Trump warned Moscow he was seriously mulling over heavy banking sanctions, extra tariffs, and more measures until a ceasefire and a complete peace deal are sealed. Meanwhile, the Treasury began looking at extra penalties for major Russian oil companies and the service firms that support them, building on steps taken by Biden's team back in January. Sean Savit, a former voice for Biden's National Security Council, slammed Trump's comments as a clear sign of underestimating Putin, especially after Russian forces fired 67 missiles and nearly 200 drones at Ukraine in one night, injuring at least 10 people. With tensions this high, will these bold moves finally break the deadlock? Russia, known as one of the world's top oil producers, now faces over 20,000 sanctions imposed by the United States and its allies since its invasion of Ukraine back in February 2022. The U.S. alone has added 6,433 sanctions since that time, while partners like Britain, Australia, the European Union, and Canada have brought the total to 21,692, as tracked by a global risk platform. Among these measures, a key rule puts a $60 cap on every barrel of Russian oil sold. With numbers piling up, can this pressure force a change in the balance of power? This change of tone comes on the heels of a time when Trump had offered warm words about a trusted Putin and even suggested Moscow be welcomed back into the G7. Yet, a senior official noted that his pressure on Russia has grown as he pushes both sides to come together at the negotiating table. Soon after, Trump took to his microblogging platform to vent his anger, writing, "Seeing Russia relentlessly hammer Ukraine on the front lines at this very moment, I am seriously weighing huge banking sanctions, extra tariffs, and more measures on Russia until a ceasefire and a complete peace deal are sealed." He urged both Russia and Ukraine to meet immediately, before the chance slips away. What unexpected move might he reveal next? Meanwhile, the U.S. and Ukrainian teams are scrambling to mend strained ties in a crucial meeting set for next Tuesday in Saudi Arabia. Trump's decision to pause military aid and the sharing of intelligence with Kyiv followed a fiery exchange last week in the Oval Office with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, a clash that only deepened the chaos as Russian forces kept pounding key cities. Even amid all this tension, Trump showed a spark of hope by saying, "I believe Putin wants peace in Ukraine." Just last week, his administration voted against a UN resolution condemning the Russian invasion on the third anniversary of the war, and by Thursday, reports emerged that key allies were considering holding back sensitive intelligence from Washington, fearing it might end up with Russia. With such drama unfolding on all sides, could this meeting finally mend the broken bonds? Not long ago, Trump had boldly promised to end the conflict on his very first day in office, a pledge that soon proved too heavy to keep. Although he has since dropped that target, his desire to wrap up the war quickly still burns bright. On the other side, Zelensky finds himself caught in an extremely tough spot. His team has been working around the clock behind closed doors, trying to keep talks moving while fending off moves that might force Ukraine into a corner with a bad deal. In his nightly address, Zelensky made it clear that Kyiv stands firm. "We must force the Kremlin to embrace peace." As pressure builds on both fronts, can Ukraine hold its ground without losing too much? Even as Ukraine pushes hard for talks, Putin remains unmoved, standing firm on his own terms. Sources with ties to Moscow say that any ceasefire proposal involving NATO troops on Ukrainian soil will be flatly rejected by the Kremlin. This hardline effectively kills a plan from a group of European countries, led by France and Britain, that aim to set up a coalition of the willing to oversee a truce. When both sides dig in so deep, is there any room left for compromise? Trump's sudden about-face on Ukraine has sent ripples through European capitals, with officials warning that any premature deal might only embolden Russian aggression. One unnamed European diplomat cautioned, the danger of rewarding Putin's invasion is very real. Easing sanctions now could create a risky precedent. With such high stakes, will Europe find a way to balance hope with caution in these turbulent times? Though there appears to be a hint of flexibility, Putin has not wavered on his stand about Ukraine. At his December press briefing, he repeated his familiar message, "We don't just need a break, we need lasting peace, solid and sure, with guarantees for the Russian Federation and its citizens." This statement shows clearly that the Kremlin is set on locking in its territorial gains and securing a deal that favors Russia in the long run. And just days ago, Moscow shot down a proposed truce from France and Britain, which would have limited air and sea battles, calling it not enough and simply unrealistic. As these echoes fade into uncertainty, what will be the next chapter in this unfolding saga?